You're about to watch my debate with Tucker Carlson at Politicon 2018. If you want to support the home of progressives, TYT, become a member today by clicking the link in the description box below.
Cenk, this is a topic you've talked a lot about in terms of the systemic corruption that's been in government that people on the left and the right have been extremely angry about. Trump talked about drain the swamp. People on the left say unrig the system. How would you say we're doing on that right now? And what do you think we would need to get to actually drain the swamp? And then I want to get your thoughts on that too, Tucker.
Yeah, I want to get Tucker's thoughts too. I'm very curious about that, and I mean that very, very genuinely. Because he's more populist than I think that a lot of the left give him credit for. So, in terms of how we're doing, miserably. It's about as bad as it can get. The corruption is rampant. It has taken over the system entirely. It's an absolute joke that corporations are human beings, that they have speech rights. And that somehow giving billions of dollars to politicians, whether it's Hillary Clinton or the Republican Party, is speaking to them? No, it's bribing them. That's what it is. And so Donald Trump was, and this is a very rare sentence for me to say, was smart to say drain the swamp. You know why? Because both Republican and Democratic, and most importantly independent voters, can't stand the corruption, and they can't stand the swamp, and they're absolutely right about that. Now, of course, the problem is Donald Trump is a pathological liar. And I don't know if Tucker can say that or can or will not, but he knows it. Everybody knows it. And he lies every day, 7 times a day, oftentimes twice in a sentence. So when he said he was going to drain the swamp, what did he do? He came in. Here, a great example. He said, all right, I'm going to negotiate Medicare drug prices under Medicare. This is an outrage. Well, that's a very popular position. Every sensible person agrees to that. And what did he do? He immediately came and said, just kidding. It turns out they're bribing me. No, I'm not going to negotiate prices. I'm going to do just the same thing as all other presidents have done. And now, mind you, Obama did the same thing. Now, Obama would have the excuse of, well, I was negotiating a complicated deal, etc. Yeah. You ran an ad saying that what Bush had done was an outrage in not allowing us to negotiate drug prices. And then you struck the same exact deal, and so did Trump. Trump's a liar. He loves the corruption. He bathes in the corruption. So it's as bad as it could possibly be. And so my question to you, Tucker, is, do you believe in the 28th Amendment to get money out of politics?
Wait, I'll reframe the question. So I do want to get your thoughts on money in politics, but maybe the way I'll frame it is, you just wrote a book called Ship of Fools, and you talk about this self-indulgent culture of elites and the ruling class. So I wanted you to say more about specifically, who are those folks, what are they doing, and then what types of reforms, maybe money in politics and or other things, do we need to start looking at?
Well, let me just say to the Trump question, I would just say a couple things very fast. One, of all the criticisms leveled at Trump, he's a compulsive liar thing, to me, it's the least sort of interesting. I mean, I actually think that the truth about Trump is he is what he seems to be. Like, I've known a lot of politicians, and they really are two different people. The person on stage who's, children are our future. And then off stage is like, where are the hookers? They're totally different. I mean, they are. And they are, almost all of them. Trump is kind of what we said we wanted. I mean, he really is. I've known him for 20 years. He's come in the media. He's pretty much exactly the same in person. I don't think, maybe you say, well, he's one-dimensional, and okay, whatever. Yeah, okay. But sort of if you watch one of his speeches, that's literally what he's like. There's no other agenda. So you either like that or you don't, or you have mixed feelings about it or whatever. I personally think it's maybe the least interesting part of the moment we're going through. And your question was, it's like we're missing a lot. I used to drink too much, like way too much. And every Sunday morning I'd wake up for a certain period of my life and I would have no memory of what happened the night before. And so I'd have to go sort of through forensically with my wife, like, so we were at the restaurant, what happened then? And then, like, how did we get home? And that's how all of America is going to feel when this is over. Do you know what I mean? It's like the whole society is being transformed in this sort of easy thing to do, and all the dumb cable chin tuggers do it. It's like, Trump, can you believe it? It's like, part of me is like, really, how outraged can you sustain this outrage like indefinitely before you die of a stroke? Maybe, we'll see. But you're also kind of not covering the things that are really happening, which is American society is inverting, and the middle class is dying, and like nobody cares. Trump is a cover for everything on both sides. It's very, and I'm not, trust me, I'm not an intellectual, but even I am like, this is too dumb, even for me. As for the money in politics thing, yeah, I mean, look, it's very frustrating to confront the truth, which is people who have more money and power have more influence in a system in which influence is supposed to be spread equally among everyone. So it's inherently anti-democratic. I just have been in D.C. for so long, and I've seen all these different schemes to get money out of politics. I'm sort of temperamentally for all of them, I guess. But you bump up right away against this thing called speech. So can you really tell someone he's not allowed or she's not allowed to express political views during a certain period? It's like, actually, you can't. So it's a little more complicated, but I would say it's even more complicated because the real threat to the democracy, yeah, the campaign finance system is stupid. Probably nothing you say I disagree with, but I don't think it's the real threat. The real threat is the massive concentrations of power outside government. So I grew up a conservative, pretty doctrine, I guess, sort of doctrinaire conservative, and I was taught my whole life that the real threat to liberty was the federal government because it was the most powerful entity, right? That's not at all the case. I mean, the beauty of the federal government is that it's so inefficient that it takes a long time to hurt you because they can't get their act together. Do you know what I mean? The people who run the post office are not, in the end, an existential threat to you because they're too lame, okay? Google is not lame. Google's technology Google right now, for just give you one of 1,000 examples, has 20,000 engineers working just on its search feature. Okay, these are people with advanced degrees, make between $200,000 and $500,000 a year just on Google search. There are 20,000 of them. There has never been a technological entity or an entity of any kind as powerful as Google. Now, I'm not saying Google is evil, though I think increasingly I do think that they are. But even if they weren't, that is too much power in the hands of too few with no transparency whatsoever. At the heart of Google is the algorithm, and nobody knows what it is. You don't need to be Ray Bradbury to think through what might happen if they decided to subvert democracy or to re-rank search results. What effect would that have on voting patterns? You reach the conclusion very quickly, if you think about it, they'd be in control of your country. That is a huge threat to all of us. And it's not just Google, of course. It's many other tech platforms that basically control speech, in effect. And so in the face of this, you have Republicans. Republicans are so easy to control. All you say is markets, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Did I criticize the free market? You know what, Monsignor? Forgive me. And then Democrats are very easy to control, too. You're just like, look, we'll help you keep power. And they're like, oh, cool, all right. So what about everybody else? We stand on the brink of having a democracy that doesn't mean anything because, in the end, our collective power as expressed in government has been totally outclassed by private power in the technology sector, and no one is saying anything.
Wow. So, who would have thought trustbuster Tucker Carlson from the progressive era? So Teddy Roosevelt would be proud.